Keeping the different properties of states of matter in mind, now let us try understanding the characteristics of particles of matter. The first characteristic of particles of matter is that between the particles there is a space. Let us consider the same diagram once again. If this is a container, if this is filled with solid, I know that the particles of solid are compactly packed. So this is how the particles will be. Now if I talk about the container which is filled with liquid, I know that particles are very close to each other, but there is some space between them. And there is no proper arrangement. And if I talk about the gases, they are freely present. Right, so this is the arrangement of different states of matter, the particles of matter in different states. So coming to the first characteristic of particles of matter, that is they have the space between them. Look at here, even when I say that the solid particles are compactly packed, I could see that there is some space between them. Though they are compactly packed, there is some space between them which make them dissolve in any other medium. We know that if I talk about sugar, even the sugar, in sugar, maybe the particles are arranged like this only, but just because there is some space between them, it will become easy for the solids like salt and sugar to dissolve in other medium. Coming to liquids, the space between them is easily visible to us, and coming to the gas, the space is easily visible because it is more. Coming to the next concept, that is the particles of matter, they continuously move. They continuously move. Now, I told you whenever movement has to happen, there should be some stimuli. There should be some external pressure or some external force which is making us move. In the same way, if I start heating solid, liquid or gas, the particles will start moving. But how do they move? It depends on which state of matter it is. I told you, see here, the particles are very close to each other. They don't have much space to move around. That's the reason why the solid particles will start vibrating, being in their place. Right? And then in the initial stages, for example, if I provide heat, in the initial stages, what will happen? The solid particles will start vibrating, being in their place. But in case of liquids, the molecules will move from here, there, like that, and they start colliding with each other. They slide each other. And in case of gases, what will happen? Just because they are free to move, they will start hitting the walls of the container because they move randomly. So that is what happens whenever the particles of matter move. Coming to the third property, this is very important that we need to understand to take the concepts further. The third characteristic is that the particles of matter, they attract each other. But how much do they attract? It depends. Let's take an activity and try understanding it. Saying that there are three groups of students are standing. In the first group, the students are standing holding each other's back. They are holding them tightly. And in the second group, students are standing holding their hands. And in the third group, the students are standing just holding their fingers. Now if I make some of the students of the class move randomly so that the students who are there in respective groups, they move apart from each other, it will be very easy to move apart the students who are there in the third group because they are only connected with their fingers. In the second group, it will become little difficult to make them move apart because they are holding their hands. But in the first group, it will become really difficult because they are actually holding each other very tightly. So we basically say that the the particles of matter, they attract each other with certain force, which is called as intermolecular force. Now this intermolecular force, it is the actual thing which is required because in case of solids, the intermolecular force is very much stronger. That is what keeps the solid particles compactly packed. But in case of liquids, the intermolecular forces will be less, and that's the reason why liquid molecules are a little apart from each other. But in case of gases, intermolecular forces will be least, and that's the reason why the particles are really far away from each other. Now, this intermolecular force, if it is more, it will not allow the particles to move around randomly, and that's the reason why the particles will stay intact. As in how the intermolecular force decreases, it will become very easy for us to, make the particles move, because heat energy will be sufficient to overcome the intermolecular force if it is very least in its amount. But if the intermolecular force will be much, then it will become very difficult. If you provide the heat to do so also, you have to provide more heat so that the intermolecular forces are overcome. See you in the next video.